Well, like the walking component, let's talk about that real quick. You mentioned this, Paul. You can't say walking distance to a park. Is that right?
Correct.
And why?
Well, because there could possibly be somebody that's looking to buy that is not walking, is bound to a wheelchair or doesn't have the capacity with like a disease or a condition that doesn't allow them to walk. So they would have to drive wherever they go.
But you could say 800 feet from a park.
Yep.
0.2 miles from a park.
Yeah. So there are ways to get around. I mean,
but it gets, you can't even say nearby or close to anymore.
You can say, like, you have to be specific about where it is. One thing I think is weird is that we can say views. Like if there are views, you can still say, mountain views.
Yeah.
Lake views.
Which is weird because you have, what if somebody wants to buy that is
blind.
Sight impaired.
Yeah. And that's what I was just going to say, playing devil's advocate. I mean, at what point do we go down this so far that it just doesn't make sense?
I don't think it makes sense that we can't say it's by the temple or by, like if it's across the street from the temple or across the street from the Baptist church or across the street from anything, I would want to know.
Yeah, it's a landmark.
Yeah, if I'm not from the area, it's not because it's actually for the opposite reason. It's not because I would want to live near those things. It's because I would not want to live near those things. It's just like
an airport or a railroad
across the street
track.
from a school. I would want to know because, that's going to be busy every day from 8 a.m. And a church, it's going to be busy on Sundays and Wednesday nights. Like it's just, and it's going to be louder. And I would want to know those things. So I think, and I get why, because we're not trying to steer people into certain neighborhoods based on religion. But if it's important to them, I think it should be a searchable feature.
I agree. I mean, I think it becomes a slippery slope when you can't say walking distance. And then, next thing you know, that the views, because of that reason, there may be some people that are sight impaired or blind. I mean, at what point do you go, okay, this is just kind of getting silly. You can't say anything about the property or describe the property in any way.
Well, we go so far the other way, and the public, I don't think is thinking about any of this. Because I have an experience when I first got into real estate. I had a lovely couple. Both of them are salt of the earth, best people I ever met. Same-sex couple, 2 women, and they were, should we take all of our personal items off the wall? Do we want anybody to know that we were here? I said, if anybody's going to be discriminating that way, you don't want them in your house. So there's a bias. I don't know how to say this. The buyers and sellers have their own things that they're going through with, I'm going to be discriminated against. So we've made it so bad that I think
the pendulum swings, right?
I think there's certain things too. It's like if you have a bunch of like animal heads on the wall, or
my father-in-law's house,
or a whole collage of crosses.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe we take, if it's like one cross, it's like, no, leave it up. It's fine. If it's, I'm like, animal heads are pretty divisive to some people. Like that's a real big turnoff for some people. So there's certain things where I'm like, yeah, let's take it down. But if it's one cross or a little, setup that they have or a prayer thing, I'm like, just leave that because we're not trying to erase who you are.
And then we have some sellers.
If it's distracting, that's when we...
And I have a seller I'm working with right now, and he's like, what do you think of all the trophy mounts? And I said, well, we could probably thin them out a bit. But at the same time, he's like, but I do want to show that you can have, if you're someone that wants trophy mounts, we have the room. This will fit in here, and this is how it can be used. And
maybe a picture beforehand. And then...
fair point. And because that's the type, they built that room specifically for the mounts. So you do have both sides of the coin.
I think Danielle McCulloch did really good with that. She had one where it was just like everywhere. They were like from the floor to the ceiling, and she did some virtual staging to show it without because it was so much that it was like
you couldn't get past it.
And so she did virtual staging to show the opposite.
Okay, quiz time. What is the number one complaint to HUD over the Fair Housing Act? Paul?
You just said
I know, I was like, this is kind of bad because it's not really a quiz. It's like where the teacher told us what the question and answer was before we came into
it. ADA things.
Disabilities. Yes. So the number one complaint to HUD, because you have a platform, you could have a channel if you feel like you've been discriminated against. So you can go right through the HUD platform and file a complaint, and there's a process and procedures there. The number one complaint is over disabilities. And why would that be the case? Because it says in the Fair Housing Act that you have to make what, Aspen?
Reasonable accommodations.
Reasonable accommodations to handle someone with disabilities or help someone with disabilities in the real estate arena. So what does that mean? So let's say you have a 2-story apartment complex and they say, hey, look, you have one available on the main floor, which is great. I need a little bit bigger space to park because I have to get my equipment out and I just need more room, obviously, like a handicap space, obviously. Can I take this section of your parking lot and maybe eat into half of another space and maybe we can figure something out there? And a landlord says, no, absolutely not. You think that's a reasonable response from a landlord? Absolutely not. Landlord should probably say, hey, well, let's make something work where you're able and comfortable to be getting in and out of your vehicle to access your unit. In my opinion, a very easy way to make it ADA compliant for a potential tenant. But that's just an example. Do you have any other examples that you would like to share in regard to the disability component? What would be a reasonable accommodation?
Sometimes I'll see, and it kind of makes sense actually that the ADA is the most, because I'm sure it's from tenants. I'm almost positive that that's where the complaints are coming in because I think a lot of tenants are more familiar with their rights now. So it makes sense that that would be I don't think it's like the home buying process that's, complaining, or not complaining, filing the complaints is what I meant to say. But if you ask someone to put in an elevator, that's not a reasonable request.
Yeah.
But if you ask if it's okay if you put in a lift and the tenant is like, I'm going to pay for it, but I would like to put in this lift to get me to my second floor. That's a reasonable request. It is.
I would agree.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But if you're asking the landlord to pay for it, that's where it's like, well, is that reasonable to ask?
And I think the rule is that the tenant would pay for it and then bring it back to the original state when they're done.
Yeah.
Or when they move out.
Wider door frames for a wheelchair.
Yeah. That could be a reasonable request. I think ramps, those types of things.
I think a landlord putting in ramps would be a reasonable request. Not to a second floor, but to, if it was a 1 unit, 1 story, but there's 2-3 steps.
Yeah, a few steps.
I think a landlord putting in a ramp would be reasonable.
Yeah, and that's also, called being a good person.
Exactly.
Did you have to?
I don't think you can say that anymore.
Yeah, I can't. Why?
No, you can't say anything anymore.
We're
in trouble with this whole thing.
This whole session is up in flames here, people. So don't turn us into.
If we said anything, just erase it.
You know what they say about the road to hell, though.
Yeah.
Paved with good intentions.
That's right. That's right. So we're on the road. We're on the highway to hell. Yeah. Hey, that's a great song.
I think if you're just constantly learning and trying to, being open-minded, you'll hear stories about, that does make sense. And that is why we should be doing it. And this stuff is happening today.
And I think genuinely, if a response is, hey, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to do anything for you, tenant or buyer. You got to figure it out.
You can't bring your service animal in here.
Yeah. I mean, those are the people that are being flagged. If it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. Well, let me see what I can do. Oh, I don't have the money, but we can work on a plan together. If you're doing something like that, it's very unlikely you're going to be flagged for, simply because you may not have the resources, but your intentions are to work with that tenant or whatever. Probably a long shot that you're going to be called to the mat on the Fair Housing Act, but you have to have those good intentions. I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to. I would say that, taking action in some manner to try to help the situation is good. It's like when, we close on a house, someone calls me and says, hey, the pipes are leaking, under the sink. And what do I say? A welcome to home ownership, or, hey, what can I do to help? I mean, there's two different approaches there. One obviously is becoming or being a good person and trying to do the best thing that you can. The other one is like, well, whatever,